pediatrician, and today the question is, when should your kid get a phone? So in the office on a regular basis, I have parents coming in with kids on devices and iPads, and I can barely do a visit sometimes because the kid is just staring, playing Subway Surfer, and we're trying to talk. And meanwhile, the mom is doing something at the same time. This book by Jonathan Haidt came out recently, and it's the hit, like it was 2024, was all over the place, called The Anxious Generation. And I really liked it, but the problem was in my office, you only allowed a certain amount of time to talk about this stuff, and I needed to get it across because this is an epidemic, and our kids are being hurt by it. So I decided to come up with a way of getting the kid involved to make them understand why they can't have a phone, or why they should have a phone at a certain time, and what the qualifications are. So I'm going to recruit one of my favorite people. My son Crew is in the background. I'm going to pretend he's a 9-year-old. So when they come into the office, I say to the kid, not the parent doesn't know this is coming. And I'll say, hey, sir, how old do you think you should be before you get a phone?
I think probably like 12.
And I've had kids say literally down to age 2. But at 12, I say, that's not a bad answer. And then I'll go into this story because I find that stories are much more powerful than telling him statistics. So I say, the Surgeon General of the United States, who is the head doctor for the whole United States, said that you should be 13 before you get a smartphone and 16 before any social media. And at that point, they all get nervous because they think that means I'm trying to take their phone away from them because they're only 9. And I'll say, but I don't know if that's true, because the truth is every kid's different. And in fact, the only person I know that knows how old you should be before you get a phone are your mom and dad. And that brings the mom and dad into it because then they're happy because I'm telling them that. What is the problem? I don't talk to you about pizza. I don't talk to you about if you ride a bike. Why do you think I'm worried about your phone?
I think maybe online bullying.
So that's a great answer. So yeah, the phone is really powerful and opens the door to things like bullying, cyberbullying, going to websites that maybe we're not ready for. But there's actually more to that. And that's what we're going to talk about really quick. So the thing about a phone, I have a phone. I like my phone. In fact, if there's birds singing outside, I can find out what species of bird it is. If there's planets or stars above my head, I can find out what they are. And if my favorite soccer player scores, it tells me a notification. That's pretty cool. But I've had my phone for 17 years and I found something out. Every phone ever created, every app ever made was made for one reason. Do you know what that reason is?
I have no idea.
So the reason people made phones was to make you want to use it over and over and over and over again. They were made to be addicting because they're a product that you're trying to sell. I guarantee you, you've seen your mom sitting there staring at her phone, bumping into walls. It's not just you. It's not just that because you're a kid. These are addicting for everybody, including me. So the problem that we found out over the last 17 years was when kids got phones, there was increased risk for anxiety, increased risk for depression, and it would ruin their sleep, which would make everything worse. And this just kept getting worse and piling on itself. So you have to be prepared to get a phone. So how can you prepare yourself? How can you protect yourself as much as you could from this addiction? And I'll say to the child, what's your favorite dessert?
The 50th anniversary from the Cheesecake Factory.
Dude, that one rocks. That's a good one. So the 50th anniversary cake from Cheesecake Factory is your favorite dessert. Your mom's the coolest mom in the world, and she gives you that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day because she knows how much you love it. What's going to happen to you?
You get real fat.
You're going to get sick. And you know that, which is why you don't ask for that for breakfast. If you don't eat dinner, do you get cheesecake or that cake?
No.
No, why? She knows you love cake. Your mom loves you. Why don't you get it?
Because you need dinner.
What's the thing about dinner?
You need it.
You need the healthy stuff first. And that's your phone. Before you get your phone, you should be doing the healthy things. You should be getting sleep, get your homework done, be nice to your brother and sister, clean your room. If you do those things, then you can get your phone. Oh, and by the way, that includes video games and iPads. I don't want you to sneak out of that because you don't have a phone yet. So another thing would be, do you ever take that cake to you with bed at night? Do you bring it to bed?
No.
Of course not. You don't bring cake to bed, just like you shouldn't bring your phone to bed, because phone ruins sleep. And even though the cake makes you feel better, it makes you feel good when you eat it, in the end, you know it's not really good for you. And what happens when you're anxious and you're tired and you're depressed, what do you need? Something to make you feel better. So you go to your phone, and your phone makes you feel good. Every time you touch that screen, a little dopamine, bloop, and you want to do it again, and you want to do it again, and the next thing you know, it's 2:30 in the morning. The final thing I'll say is, what would happen if your mom bought you that cake, and it was downstairs in the refrigerator, and at midnight, she found you sneaking the cake?
She'd probably be pretty mad.
So that's what everybody says. They get grounded. In fact, that probably wouldn't happen. What they would do, they just wouldn't buy you cake anymore, because they bought that cake and they saw you weren't responsible. So going forward, when that time does come that your mom and dad think you're ready to have cake or ready to have a phone, think of it like you think of dessert, and use it in that way to protect yourself from the bad side effects of it. Then the closing thing I'll say is, in all honesty, when you get older, the other things about the phone go to the cyberbullying that you brought up. I'll bring up a story that happened at my wife's dance academy many, many years ago. That there were these 3 12-year-old girls, and they made a video, a diss track about another 12-year-old girl. Now, these weren't mean girls. They were just girls, but they made a really, really mean video. And when it got out, they thought it was going to disappear, but it didn't, and it got around. And there were real consequences for those kids that they didn't expect, because they didn't realize how powerful the tool was that they had. And it's important for kids to know that that thing in their hand is that powerful. In fact, to me, it's like learning how to put a nail in with a nail gun rather than a hammer. You wouldn't give a 12-year-old a nail gun. So in the end, I think a lot of the parents like this, and they use that as a conversation to kind of bring back with the kids, and the kids get it. They hear the danger of it, and this becomes an easier conversation to have later on. Again, this is just my little thing that I do. It's not ratified by anybody. It's not something that all pediatricians do. It's a way of getting the kid to hear a story that has power. In the end, you should always consult your pediatrician about how to give advice, because they know your kids better than I do. So in closing, I'm Dr. Dan. I'm a pediatrician. And remember, if you're nervous, we should be too. You think that's okay? It went fine. I'm going to go to the bathroom.